Good morning, everyone. Aloha kakahiaka. I am Misty Padilla, born and raised here on Hawaii Island. I am located here in Kailua Kona, and welcome to Living in Hawaii. I wanted to welcome all of you, and I have the privilege of being in the presence of both Sasha and Summer this morning. Welcome, ladies. Thank you for joining us today.
Morning.
Good morning.
Sasha, go ahead and share a little bit about yourself.
Hello, everybody. My name is Sasha. I'm out of the island of Oahu from originally Kailua side, but out of Kapolei now. And I love living here, raising my family, and working on this island. It's got so much to offer, and I love working with our team. And thank you so much for having me this week.
Beautiful. Welcome. How about you, Summer?
Hello, I'm Summer. I live currently on Hawaii Island. I've been here for just over 2 years, relocated from the mainland, Northern California. Excited to be here.
Beautiful. And as I mentioned, I am in Kailua Kona. It is so beautiful and sunny today. It's also very windy. So we're just embracing all of the elements on this Good Friday. So welcome, ladies. We're going to
Good
go ahead.
Friday.
We're going to go ahead and just dive right in. And today's topic, we're going to be discussing buying versus renting in Hawaii. And I'm sure each of us can speak into this topic here, which is a very, very big discussion. Let's go ahead and start with you, Sasha. What is the right choice for you, and how much do you feel it costs to rent in Hawaii, specifically on Oahu, where you are located?
I want to say the best thing is to buy, of course, but that really just depends on your situation. Not everybody's in that position to do so. And for rent here on Oahu, I want to say it's like 1,000 per bedroom, basically, kind of roundabout, give or take a couple of hundred. But studios are starting at like 1,000 to 1,200, and then for each bedroom, you're going up another 1,000 roundabout. So, like a 3-bedroom single family home might cost you somewhere between $3,000 and $4,000, and then that's not including utilities, and you want to eat and drive to work. So yeah,
You're
it's pretty expensive, and I think that if you are able to sort your finances, that you're going to probably pay the same as you would in a mortgage and rent. So much better if you can to buy instead of rent, of course.
right. Very true. I completely agree. And the purpose of this talk show this morning is, we want to talk about how unique Hawaii's housing market is. And basically, what works on the mainland, it may not necessarily apply in Hawaii. And we definitely want to help new residents and potential movers, understand the financial and the lifestyle trade offs between renting versus buying in Hawaii. Sasha, on your island, do you see a difference between renting on the west side versus the east side?
Slightly. Anything on the west side seems to be more reasonably priced, and that's for buying, for renting. But really, like rentals across the island, it don't matter where, it's still about the same price point. And
Correct.
even like the price point out that side is coming up quickly too. So right now, median price of a single family on the island is 1.1.
Right.
And I want to say out west, you're looking at like 850 median price. So it's coming up quick. Yeah.
Right. You're absolutely right. Summer, what can you speak into this topic coming from Hawaii Island? Moving over from the mainland to Hawaii Island, what is your experience with?
Sure. I would say renting versus buying. We actually bought sight unseen coming over from the mainland. And I wouldn't recommend that. I would actually strongly recommend coming here first, possibly renting for 3 to 6 months, and deciding what area of the island that you want to be in before making that decision. We actually move 3 times in a year. We now live south down in Ocean View. It's definitely more affordable in this area. As far as rents on average here on Hawaii Island, roughly around 2,800. But down here in Ocean View, you can get a 1 bedroom for anywhere around 750 to 1,000 a month. So it's again much more affordable. Whereas in Kailua Kona, I believe it's more around 2,800 is the average, and average price of a home is anywhere around 645, I think, now, whereas down here you can actually get a permanent home for as low as 250. So it's definitely a little bit more affordable down in this area. But I would definitely recommend renting until you know exactly where you want to land.
That is so beautiful. You could not have explained that any much better, is being able to rent for a few months and then purchasing a home. There's so many people that we know that do buy sight unseen. That's just how beautiful Hawaii is, right? It's just calling to them. They want to go ahead and buy the home. And then, of course, you find out down the line that this location may not necessarily be for you. So I really like how you gave that recommendation. Thank you for sharing. If you don't mind sharing with us, where have you moved? I know you mentioned 3 times while you've been here.
Sure.
Of the island, did you?
So this is a great question. We originally bought in Kona Paradise, which is about 30 minutes south, 30, 35, 45 minutes south of Kailua Kona. We bought this beautiful home overlooking the ocean. You could walk down, snorkel, fish. It was great, but it was hot. Coming from the mainland, in Northern California, we're used to it being by the coast being nice and cool, and it was not. It was really hot at our house. It was also in an HOA division and subdivision. We'd never experienced that before. So within a year, we actually sold that property, rented in the area until we decided where we wanted to land. And so we bought a house down here in Ocean View. It does take about an hour and a half to get into Kailua Kona. But really what we were able to get just justify that. So we're really happy. And we're about 3,500 feet elevation. So it's nice and cool. The pine in the background. We really enjoy it. So, but I wish we'd done some more research before moving 100%.
Well, that's great. Hopefully you will not have to move again for the next few years, right?
I hope so.
No, for sure. So, for me, I previously purchased a home, years ago. And of course, comparing renting versus owning, I've been a renter, for the last, 15 years. And it's so funny talking about this subject because we're currently buying a home in the subdivision that I bought a home in 20 years ago. And let me tell you, not fun having to come back to the exact same place and having to pay way more, maybe 4 times the amount of what I paid for it 20 years ago. So that's just bizarre, right? And, so back then, this particular subdivision, we bought the home for like $300,000. And then now, 20 years later, just seeing how the market elevated and increased. So yes, Sasha, you're absolutely right. You want to buy versus renting. It's definitely the better option. But what Sasha made mention on was the shoe has to fit right for you. It has to be the right timing, the right place, the right lending team in place. All the parties involved need to be all in alignment, and then it can work for sure for you. But in some cases, renting does work better for others. It just depends on their personal situation, right? Mm-hmm. Let's go ahead and talk about the pros and cons of buying. With buying, of course, we talk about building equity, long-term wealth, the stability, the tax benefits. Sasha, if you can go ahead and share with us your personal opinion on the pros of buying in Hawaii.
Not paying somebody's equity is number one. And like you said, Misty, like our 20 years ago, the house was 300,000. Now you're probably looking at $1 million estate by now, So if you can, you should probably buy. But you also need to think about why you're buying. Like, is it going to be your primary residence, or are you using it as an investment property? Are you going to try and rent it out? And that's a whole nother market. We talked about that too, like Airbnbs and stuff like that. So it's really like what I guess your goals would be, your personal goals, your business goals, your generational goals. I know some people that will buy and then, try and rent it out and then realize they don't want to be landlords. And
right.
Then you'll have to hire management companies and then that's, there's a lot to it. And if you're looking in that direction, read up on landlord tenant code and do some homework, do some digging.
It's a whole different ball game when we talk about landlord tenant code for sure. So yes, Sasha, that is the best recommendation, is to do your due diligence, do your homework. Sasha, if I could tag you, let's talk about the cons of buying versus renting. Any cons that you'd like to share? I can name one is less flexibility to relocate. If you can add on to that, we would appreciate your input.
If you're buying, there's lots of good things. You're building your portfolio, you're building your equity. You can rent it out later if you want to move. Some cons, I guess, would be that you're the owner. So you got to keep up with the maintenance, and you got to do,
All the
and to
upfront
get,
costs.
yeah, if you want to change your house, you want to do, change in your structure or something, you got to go through permitting, which can take forever. I don't know how it is on the Big Island, but Oahu is just hellacious. If your toilet breaks, I mean, I just homeowner stuff, I guess you could say. I mean, what's a
Property
con
taxes.
to, what could be a con to owning? I mean,
I
I can't
think what
really
I
think of too many things.
experienced is like people don't have enough down payment, to buy a house. So then they just say, oh, we'll just rent because it's easier, as opposed to meeting with professionals and trying to find a way to have that down payment accumulated over time.
Mhm.
So again, it just depends on everyone's personal lifestyle, is that it can be a con, the cost of buying, because of property taxes too, you're going to have to pay. But at the same time, looking at the long-term goal of having that equity in place, like that's just gold. You're not going to
Yeah,
accumulate equity like that in
yeah,
anything else that you have in life. And
yeah,
home is, by far one of the most important decisions besides choosing your spouse, is buying your home. That is your biggest investment that you spend, your lifetime on. So I guess, yeah, having down payment, paying closing costs and fees, all those things might just be a con, for the cost of buying a home here in Hawaii, especially.
yeah. But that, I mean, when you think about it, like there's cost to buying anything. You know what I mean? You go to the store and you buy milk, you pay GET tax, but you pay tax on your money when you got it paid. And I mean, just like, there's cost to everything. So
Choose your
if
heart.
you
Right?
look at it, yeah, yeah, yeah. If you look at it in the long run, then it's yours, right? And the way I look at it is, instead of putting your money into a savings account, you're putting it straight into your house, which is building equity at like what, 3% per year or something like that. And that's not something that you're getting out of a regular savings account. It's just growing, and then you can borrow against it in a HELOC form. A lot of people, like you said, Misty, people are afraid to even like, oh my God, I need so much thousands and stuff. But you can work towards it, and like you said, get with a good lending team to kind of show you where you are on your path, and then you'll have a goal at the end and something to work on, and what street signs you should pass.
Right. You're absolutely right. Summer, are you able to speak into, let's talk about the pros of renting?
Sure. The pros of renting are, like you discussed, the maintenance, that you get to call someone and not necessarily have to fix that yourself. If you're not planning on staying here, let's say any 3 to 7 years, I would say, think about renting, just because of the costs associated with, relocating. Other pros of renting, yeah, that flexibility to be able to just
Oh,
up and move. Yeah, to change your location.
well,
Always.
something's broken. Please come and
Yeah,
fix this or that. And
exactly.
that's like a
Um,
luxury, right?
but I'm a firm believer, like Sasha said, in not paying somebody else's mortgage. So in owning, building that equity, I feel like that's really important. And then to speak to a con, while you were speaking, I thought of here, we have the different lava zones, and it used to be in lava zone 2 that insurance premiums were roughly around 1,000 a year. And in the last several months, that same premium has jumped to between 6 to 8,000. So you're talking an additional $400 a month on top of your mortgage payment. So now these lower cost areas, I've got to, talk to buyers and relay to them that, they have to realize that the insurance costs are going to be quite a bit more. So it's unfortunate, because it was, affordable, and then you put another $400 or $500 a month, and that may tip that where it becomes then not as affordable. So that's unfortunate.
And then too, it's like all the unknowns, you're going to be subject to rent increases. You know,
Exactly.
just be a far stretch at that moment, and then boom, your landlord gives you 30 days. Sorry, your rent is now increasing to $500 more a month. So these are all the unknowns that renters do experience, not to mention the limited control over modifications on the property. Say you move into a home and you have just one child, and then over the years you're growing, you have another child and another. You can't do modifications and go build an extra room. As you're
Mhm.
renting. When you own your home, you can easily modify your home. So
And
case
same
by case, right?
with pets also. I mean, you inherit
Yeah.
a dog and all of a sudden your landlord's like, nope, I'm not going to allow you to have a dog.
You're absolutely right. Very good. Thank you, ladies. These are all very important factors, when comparing buying versus renting here in Hawaii. Let's go ahead, if we can discuss on our island specific considerations. Let's start on Hawaii Island, the Big Island. Um, Summer, would you say the market seems to be more affordable? Kind of going to answer the question while I'm talking about it. Um, let's talk about affordability on the island, east, west. We kind of talked about it previously, but when you do rent on the Kona side versus on the Hilo side, do you see a difference in pricing?
Sure. I was actually looking at that earlier today. It seems like give or take $300 to $500 difference when I was looking at Hilo versus Kona, which I was actually surprised at. I thought Hilo would be considerably more affordable
Right.
than Kailua Kona, and really they're fairly comparable. And what I was looking at this morning, it seemed like it was roughly around $3,000 a month for your average 3-bedroom, 2-bath, single-family home. Whereas, as we mentioned, down south, and then over on the east side, going towards Pahoa, Volcano, Mountain View, it's relatively less expensive. So more like $2,000 a month for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, single-family home.
And then also choosing to be, those that would like to rent, on oceanfront properties, you can definitely expect to have an increase there. It really depends on the lifestyle and the luxury, right, of where people choose to call their home.
Yeah, and how long you're comfortable driving. How much time you want to spend in the car.
Good one. We live on a big island. A lot of people don't realize that you have to commute. I hear people so many times say, "Oh yeah, I didn't rent a car. We're just gonna go and do our thing." I'm like, "No, you need a vehicle." Don't realize we're like literally hours away from things.
I can't imagine.
How about for you, Sasha? What can you speak into this topic coming from Oahu?
I was just laughing at that because you don't have a bus system either where you can just like go, and I'm sure Ubers are like $1 million because of how far things are.
We have Helion bus. That's like one bus that goes around the entire island.
And I think it takes 4 hours to get going over to Hilo.
We have one road that takes us around the entire island. So we're a little limited being on the biggest island of all, but again, we love our home and we just count it all joy. But go ahead and share with us on Oahu Island.
So rentals, like I said, you're looking at $1,000 a bedroom. The thing about rentals here is it's just hard to get. Like, I know most of them are managed by companies, and man, everybody I know that's trying to get into rentals, you put in an application fee, like for every adult that's applying, and every adult that's going to be living there has to apply, and it's like $25 a person, and it's like I know so many people that are like putting out application fees just so they can be considered, and then they don't even get a call. You know what I mean? And a lot of places are run by rental management companies because I want to say the landlord tenant code is definitely in favor of the tenants and not the landlords. And tenants can take a lot of advantage of landlords. And so they will tend to have management companies step in to help facilitate all these things because they'll vet the client. They'll make sure that stuff is paid on time. You have to have 3 times the amount of rent in income just to get a rental here. So if you can do that, you can buy a house because that's pretty much what our lenders are going to look at when they're figuring out your money. They only want 1/3 going towards your housing and the rest is your living expenses, right? So if the rental market is already doing that, then you might as well talk to our team and try and buy a house, because you're paying the same or more just because of that. And then we have like all these time frames. Okay, so like technically you can rent month to month to your tenant after their leases lapse. So like say they signed a 6 month or a 1 month or 1 year rental agreement, but they're still there after that thing, it turns into like a 1 month contract or month to month. But your landlord has to give you 45 days notice if they want you out. And so it's just like all these things that overlap, to where if you are an owner and you want your tenant gone, good luck. You know what I mean? Like, it's really hard. And then they can stay in there and like squat and not even pay you.
Mhm.
And then you're still now calling sheriffs and getting, all this stuff. And then pretty soon you're desperate. You're like, cash for keys. I'll pay you to leave my house. Right. And then hopefully it's not trashed. So there's a tough rental market here. And that's why there's not a lot available, and why most homeowners are not trying to rent out their homes. There's been bills that's been trying to get passed recently. I don't know the name of the bills, but where they're trying to say like, okay, unoccupied homeowners have to rent them out to help our housing and stuff. And it's like, that's so unfair. To me, that's so unfair, because there's nobody protecting really the owners, right? So it's a little bit of a slippery slope, and but it's, that's what it is. So
You're absolutely right. Everything that you just pinpointed is 100% true. And I just feel that's why you see so many families, hooing together, coming together as one, and there's multiple families in a single family home.
Yep.
Hawaii is very, very tough. So if there's anything that, we can all do better, if we all do our part, in the way we live, basically, live aloha daily, right? Everywhere everyone does their part, it really helps the economic situation, because again, we do live on an island, we got to be resourceful.
And we're not growing anymore either. You know what I mean? Oahu, we have to build up, because we can't go out there. We don't have Madam Pele helping us like the Big Island does, growing some aina to where we can eventually build on that. It's like, it's very limited.
Well, and I do feel, now that you speak about that, yes, our island is growing. Of course, we're growing and building our lava here. But at the same time, I just feel that Hawaii Island is still untouched. Like Oahu and Kauai and Maui, prices are astronomical. And it is here too. But at the same time, more than anything, I just feel that our Hawaii Island people need to buy now, because it is only going to get more and more expensive. And we are going to at some point become like Oahu, like Maui, like Kauai, where it's just kind of ridiculous. I mean, I speak that, in a very humble way. So Summer, let's go ahead and talk about, what are ways that we could assist our families in planning and better preparing, to be able to purchase a home versus renting. What are your recommendations?
Sure, that's a great question. Actually, my son and his partner, they moved here from Portland, Oregon back in June, and they are in their 20s, coming from Portland. They're all just used to having roommates. I mean, that's just kind of how it is. They have professional jobs, yet they can't afford to rent their own home. So what I've started having them, or asking them to do, is they've been attending the home buying workshops, and those have been really Tara Shim on our team, she promotes those and holds those. And those are such a blessing, not only just to, in how you spend your money, but how to prepare for home ownership. And so I definitely recommend to anyone that's thinking about it to attend one of the home buying workshops, just to at least plant that seed and get a plan.
I completely agree. You heard it right. For those of you tuning in to livinginhawaii.com, is connect with your trusted resources. Reach out to us. We're able to assist you. We want to be your local expert that can assist and help you navigate through these loopholes and processing, just to make it easier for you. We've done all the legwork already. Now, if we can go ahead and share that information with you, it makes it so much easier in whether you decide to relocate, again, rent versus buying here in Hawaii. That's very, very good, Summer. Thank you for that. Let's go ahead and wrap it up here. So, Sasha, if you can just, bring everything to a conclusion here, what is your best recommendation, both buyer and renter, that you could share to all of those on livinginhawaii.com?
I would say if you're renting and you're not going to buy for a long time, try and save. Like, try and start learning the process to move and make that transition into ownership. And if you're an owner, I mean, like, good for you. That's so awesome. I don't know. I guess reach out if you have any questions about any of these processes, and we're here to help.
Beautiful. Absolutely right. How about for you, Summer? What are your last closing thoughts and best recommendations?
Closing thoughts would be, and again, this is from someone that came from the mainland not too long ago, is do your research. Really, I mean, livinginhawaii.com is an excellent resource. I've actually sent the website over to some of my buyers that have recently reached out. Do your research. Come to the island first. Come and spend at least a week to acclimate yourself and get a better idea of where the best fit is for you. So I think that's really important. And congratulations on your new home purchase too, Misty.
Yeah, congratulations.
Like I said, speaking into both sides, renting worked best for us all these years, because we have such a big family, and it was hard. We love to travel. We love to put our money in other areas versus saving for a down payment. So that was really painful. It was tough. But at the same time, now being able to find a place that accommodates my big party of 10, I'm very grateful, because we did experience the rental hikes every single year. We've moved probably 4 times, and we were able to rent beautiful homes at affordable prices. But now that so-called affordable price nearly tripled, over the last 15 years. So we've definitely experienced the good, the bad, and the ugly. And my last closing thoughts, is echoing both what Sasha and Summer said, but at the same time, when you do come to the islands, come with aloha. The island will take care of you if you take care of the island. And always, think about all the ways that you can contribute best to our community. And then again, being able to call Hawaii your home, it's such a blessing, and I'm super grateful. Well, thank you, ladies. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you, everyone, for tuning into Living in Hawaii. Go ahead and subscribe and tune into their YouTube channel. Like, subscribe, visit livinginhawaii.com, and don't hesitate to reach out to us. We'd love to be your local expert and assist you in relocating to Hawaii. Thank you, ladies. Have a blessed day.
Aloha, everybody.